So the most important part which comes is about continental drift theory. Now continental drift theory क्या बोलता है that before starting जो अर्थ था वो पूरा एक कॉन्टिनेंट था और एक ही ओशन था. Pangea was the one island and Panathalamus was the one ocean which was present. Then उसके बाद it got divided into two continents. One was Laurasia named as Angara Lane, another was Gondwana, and बीच में एक Tethys Sea का formation हुआ. After that, there was split of continents into North America, South America, Europe, Africa, India, or Antarctica, Australia, and Asia, and then proper formation हुआ continents का. So it was proposed by Alfred Wegener, who was a German meteorologist in 1912. He proposed the theory to explain major variations in the Earth's climate. Now, assumptions कुछ लिए उसने कि तीन पार्ट में है. आउटर जो है वो सियाल है, बीच वाला सीमा एंड इनर इज द नाइफी लेयर. सियाल में देयर इज कॉन्टिनेंटल मास, सीमा oceanic crust, and Naifi is core. Continental mass were assumed to be floating over oceanic crust without any resistance. So बोला कि जो continent का crust है, that is floating over the oceanic crust और कोई भी resistance नहीं है. So continental drift क्या है? Now before the Carnivorous period, there was only one continent which was Pangaea and Ocean Panathelys. ये supercontinent जो था ये split हुआ into northern Angara land, that is Laurasia, and southern Gondwana land, with a rift running from east to west. In between Tethys Sea था. Now the northern part consisted of North America, Greenland, and Eurasia without Arabia and India. Now the southern Gondwana land consisted of Africa, Arabia, South America, Madagascar, India, Australia, and Antarctica. Now the north-south rift, it separated NA from Eurasia, South America from Africa, which started to move towards the west. Now the India started to move towards the north, and Australia got separated from Antarctica. And moved towards the northeast. Now, the Africa moved towards north, and finally Arabia got separated from America and merged into Asia. So, ये पूरा continental का drift theory है, how there was a distribution of the continents over the period of time. Now, forces कि ऐसा क्यों movement क्यों हुआ, क्या ऐसे forces था? So, Wegener proposed कि there are forces और कुछ causes है जिसकी वजह से there was this movement of the continental motion. दो थे, एक था pole fling theory और एक था westward motion of continents. Pole fleeing was that because the Earth is constantly rotating on its surface, due to that, the resultant gravitational differential forces and forces of buoyancy adjust the center of gravity and buoyancy. Now, these cause the continents to move equatorward. And the second is westward motion, which is caused due to tidal forces of sun and moon, जो डेवलप होता है ड्यू टू ओशनिक वाटर. नाउ क्या एविडेंसेस प्रोवाइड किए थे उन्होंने टू प्रूव द कॉन्टिनेंटल ड्रिफ्ट थ्योरी. सो द फोर्थ evidences, number one was jigsaw fit continents. Jigsaw fit tha that there was matching of continents which was happening on, there were similarities in the coastline of Western Africa and Southern America, the topmost part of the Southern America, of the opposite side of the oceans. Now, all the continents have merged together to form one big continent, जैसे कि shorelines of Africa and South America. Now, there were structural evidences as well that, for example, mountains, जहाँ पे the mountain belts of Brazil terminates on the eastern coast of South Africa, and the same kind of mountains can be reappeared in the Western Africa. So ये बोला जाता है that this is due to the separation that same kind of mountains are present. Earlier marine deposits as well along the coastline of South America and Africa. Stratigraphic evidences mean that Africa are of Jurassic age. Eastern coast of Brazil has same type of rock formation observed along the western coast of Africa. Next is fossil evidences. Fossil evidences दो के दिखते हैं, Mesosaurus and Glopterius. Mesosaurus was an aquatic reptile of fresh water whose fossil remains are found in the Southern America and the South Africa only. The fossils of fawn Galaptoceros, a fawn which is grown only in the subpolar climate. It was separated by white ocean. Placer deposits, deposits of golds near Ghana coast without any source of gold nearby. They are found in Brazil. Glacial deposits, the layer of tillits. Tillits is the deposit of glaciers, which is found near the warm tropical region, जैसे कि South Africa and South Australia, uh, Australia, India, South America, and South Africa. क्या criticisms थे? पहला तो assumption that it is not possible that continental crust can the movement of continent was not possible. It was inadequate. The rock of continental crust and oceanic crust, they were rigid and could not permit easy drifting of the continents over the oceanic crust. Then this theory did not describe the condition of Carboniferous times. So this was continental drifting theory. Theory क्या है, कैसे separation हुआ, what are the forces which caused, what are the evidences which was given. So ये important है, बहुत बार questions आ चुके हैं इससे. Next is sea floor spreading theory. Now sea floor spreading theory क्या बोलता है? Now there is this oceanic crust below the sea. इसमें there is a crack due to magma. Now ये जो magma flow के बाहर आ रहा है, this is forming a mountain, but बहुत fold mountains kind का नहीं बनता. Why? Because of the magma, there is this formation of the rocks, which formation of the oceanic crust, which is getting removed, and the new ones is getting formed. The older ones is again pushed to the older crust and mixed into the mantle. इसलिए बहुत ज्यादा formation नहीं होता है यहाँ पे mountains का, full mountains. So the mapping of oceanic floor revealed the following information. Pehla, the presence of mid-oceanic ridges along the sea floor, and these ridges are active with continuous eruption of magma. So it's like basaltic magma which is coming out continuously. And the age of ridges increases from ridge. The rocks on the either side of the ridges are of similar properties, same age and similar composition. The rock of oceanic crust, they are younger than the rocks of the continental crust because ये अभी form होते हैं, फिर they get dismantled. Next, oceanic crust, they are thinner and younger and than the continental crust. These are based on the upper observation. Harry Heads proposed the theory of sea spreading floor. Sea floor spreading. Now, इस theory में क्या बोलता है that there is constant magma eruption from the mid-oceanic ridges, which is causing the cracking of oceanic crust. Now, the new lava, it wedges on the oceanic crust. This pushes the oceanic crust on the either side, and the ocean floor spreads. The spreading crust, it sinks down into the mantle oceanic trenches, and that get consumes that and mixes with magma. So ये था sea floor spreading theory. Next is plate tectonics theory, जिसको हम lithospheric plate भी बोलते हैं. प्लेट टेक्टोनिक थ्योरी, पहला तो प्लेट्स क्या है, प्लेट्स का फॉर्मेशन थ्योरी दिया बाय J.T. Wilson, and then theory of plate tectonics was given by Morgan, Mackenzie and Parker. Now, plates होते हैं, they are broad and rigid sentiments of lithosphere, जो include रहते हैं rigid upper part of the upper mantle and the crust. ये जो प्लेट्स है ये हमेशा इन मोशन रहते हैं. वाई? नाउ अर्थ से जो मैग्मा निकल के जा रहा है इन द रेडियल डायरेक्शंस, नाउ ड्यू टू द प्रेशर इट स्टार्ट्स इट्स फ्लो इन द टैंजेंट डायरेक्शंस. नाउ जब ये टैंजेंट डायरेक्शंस हो रहा है, दिस इज पुशिंग द प्लेट्स एज वेल इन देयर मोशन. इसको प्लेट्स मूवमेंट बोलते हैं. दिस इज ऑलवेज मूविंग बिकॉज ऑफ द मैग्मा. नाउ these plates are in motion on the underlying ethnosphere. Lithosphere के जो नीचे ethnosphere है, since it is semi-liquid and semi-solid, it is causing the movement of the plates. Now the plates are nearly 100 kilometers thick and they have high rigidity and they are unable to deform unless in response to very strong and prolonged force. सात मेजर पार्ट्स ऑफ द अर्थ सरफेस, प्लेट्स है ऑन द अर्थ सरफेस, कौन कौन सा? एक तो पैसिफिक साइड में ओशियनिक, नॉर्थ अमेरिका, साउथ अमेरिका, अफ्रीकन, यूरेशियन, मिड ऑस्ट्रेलियन एंड अंटार्कटिका, Indo-Australian and Antarctica. And there are many micro as well, Nazca Plate, Arabian Plate, Philippines, Cocos. तो ये सारे 7 plates on the Earth surface, इसका मैपिंग करके रखना है याद कि कहाँ कहाँ पे प्लेट्स आपको देखने को मिलते हैं. Now, plate tectonics. It's a study of deformation within plates and of interaction of plates around the margins. Continental drift theory और plate tectonic theory में क्या difference है? Both they are both can be a part of same plate. Continental crust भी हो सकते हैं, oceanic crust भी हो सकते हैं. It's a plate which moves over the atmosphere. While plates they are more जब plates move करते हैं, they causes more very high resistance, causing the deformation of plates as well. Plate tectonics theory का introduction हमने पढ़ा ना. प्लेट में tectonics movement में 3 movements आते हैं, एक होता है divergent, एक है convergent और एक है parallel. Now कीप इन माइंड कि कॉन्टिनेंट्स कभी भी मूव नहीं किए. कॉन्टिनेंट एक पार्ट है प्लेट का और प्लेट्स मूव करते हैं, जिसकी वजह से देयर वाज डिसइंटीग्रेशन ऑफ द कॉन्टिनेंट्स. पहला आता है डाइवर्जेंट थ्योरी. डाइवर्जेंट बाउंड्री इज दैट प्लेट बाउंड्री जहां पे देयर इज न्यू क्रस्ट इज जनरेटेड एज द प्लेट्स पुल अवे फ्रॉम ईच अदर. जब प्लेट्स एक दूसरे से दूर जा रहे हैं तब देयर इज फॉर्मेशन ऑफ न्यू क्रस्ट. जो न्यू क्रस्ट जनरेट हो रहा है, दैट इज व्हाट इज डाइवर्जेंट प्लेट मूवमेंट. डाइवर्जेंट प्लेट मूवमेंट दो है, ओशनिक ओशन है एंड कॉन्टिनेंट कॉन्टिनेंट है. पहला बात करते हैं ओशियनिक ओशनिक का. नेक्स्ट आता है ओशन ओशन डाइवर्जेंट बाउंड्रीज. कैसे हो रहा है ना? ओशन के नीचे देयर आर 2 डाइवर्जेंट और देयर आर 2 रॉक्स जिसके बीच से देयर इज द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ मिड ओशनिक रिजेस. नाउ ये जो मिड ओशनिक रिजेस है, दिस इज फॉर्म ड्यू टू देयर इज अ प्रेशर from beneath of the surface, and the magma when it starts coming out it leads to a formation of a fold mountain, जिससे mid oceanic ridge भी बोलते हैं. Now the plate margin is a zone जहां पर 2 oceanic plate boundaries are moving away from each other. Now क्योंकि ये magma is coming out, this is pressurizing the rocks or the oceanic plates to move away from each other. The margin in the zone of the tension where the lithosphere splits, separates and move apart in the opposite direction. It's your hot magma that comes up through the cracks and solidifies, leading to formation of new oceanic crust. This leads to a formation of new oceanic crust. The continuous build of solidified magma along the plate margins. In this plate boundary, shallow earthquakes with focus from 70 kilometers is observed. So, ये जो portions होते हैं, यहाँ पे there is a possibility of having earthquakes. ठीक है? But there is a possibility of having shallow earthquakes, and this ranges with a range of, this has a range of 70 kilometers. Now examples, mid Atlantic ridge. So जैसे this is we are forming South America. ठीक है. साउथ अमेरिका के बाद और बीच देयर इज दिस यूरोप पार्ट. इसके बीच में देयर इज मिड अटलांटिक ओशन wherein a mid-Atlantic ridge is there within Atlantic Ocean. Next is Carlsberg Ridge in the Indian Ocean and East Pacific Rise. All these have the presence of mid-oceanic ridges. Next आता है continent. Now formation of divergent plane boundary along the continents 3 stages में होगा. एक होगा intracontinental, intercontinental, and the third will be mid-oceanic ridges. Now how it happens? Now there is an upward movement of magma which is happening. Now this is a continent, this is a continent. Now there is magma movement below the continental plate. It causes the fragmentation of continents and creates minor cracks and faults. ये series of faults will lead to creation of rift valley. ओशंस में जब सिमिलर चीज हो रहा था, दिस वाज कॉल्ड एज मिड ओशनिक रिजेस, रिजेस बोलते हैं, बट जब कॉन्टिनेंट में हो रहा है तो देयर इज अ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ रिफ्ट वैली. Now, these rising magma starts to come out through this rift. Now, एक example है East African Rift Valley is the example of continent-continent divergence. Now, continent यहाँ पर भी so this is the two continents. Now, these continents, because of the magma, it is getting separated. Now, this separation is leading to formation of Rift Valley, and then is Rift Valley, so there is magma which is coming out. Next is interplate thinning. Interplate thinning क्या है? It involves partial melting of lithosphere and gradual thinning of continental crust. So these two were the two continental crusts. Now, because of the magma, it is creating its way and it is trying to melt all these rocks besides continent. और ये ऊपर आता है. Now these melting, the rift valley starts to widen. अब ये rift valley का formation बहुत बड़ा हो जाएगा, and there's a possibility that in this there will be formation of deposition of water leading to formation of a sea or ocean, and इसको हम लोग shallow sea बोलते हैं. For example, Red Sea is an example of this kind of sea. Next comes formation of mid-oceanic ridges. Now, अब ये जैसे जैसे continent apart होते जाएगा, there will be a oceanic crust which will be formed. Now, these oceanic crust में से भी नीचे से magma निकलना शुरू होगा, and this magma is going to formation of ridges, and this ridge will again lead to formation of mid-oceanic ridges. So continuous spreading of this continental plate away from each other and then creation of new oceanic crust along the Rift Valley by rising magma, this pushes the continental mass sufficiently apart. इतना दूर आ गया. Now ये बीच में जो है, this is oceanic crust, and again this will be splitted because of the magma pressure and formation of mid-oceanic ridges. There will be new oceanic basin along the both side of ridges. नेक्स्ट आता है कन्वर्जेंट बाउंड्रीज. कन्वर्जेंट बाउंड्रीज में क्या होगा, कोई भी न्यू क्रस्ट का फॉर्मेशन नहीं होता है, न्यू लैंडफॉर्म्स फॉर्म नहीं होगा यहाँ पर. पहला बात करते हैं ओशन कन्वर्जेंस. नाउ हाउ ओशन कन्वर्जेंस वर्क्स. जब दो ओशनिक प्लेट मार्जिन, so this is one oceanic plate margin, this is the other oceanic plate margin. Now this oceanic plate margin, जब दोनों एक दूसरे से there is compression or pressure between the two, the higher density descends into the atmosphere. So when two oceanic plate margin converge, the oceanic plate जिसका higher density है, क्योंकि lower density वाला नीचे नहीं जाएगा, so higher density वाला this will go into the asthenosphere. नाउ इस प्रोसेस को हम क्या बोलते हैं, इस प्रोसेस को हम बोलते हैं सबडक्शन. दिस प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड एज सबडक्शन. नाउ सबडक्शन, ये जो रीजन जो है इसको हम सबडक्शन जोन बोलेंगे. जो प्रोसेस है इट लीड्स टू फॉर्मेशन ऑफ ट्रेंचेस. सो यहाँ पे एक ट्रेंच का फॉर्मेशन होता है. Now, these trenches are the deep areas in the water and the continent. Trenches ka formation. These are the deepest regions on the surface of the earth. जैसे कि subduction of Pacific plate below the surrounding plates, it has resulted into Japan Trench, Kurile Trench, and Mariana Trench. So the subduction of the Pacific plate below the surrounding plates, this has resulted in the Japan Trench, Kurile Trench, Mariana Trench, and Aleutian Trench. Now जो subduction place है, this undergoes deformation. बहुत ज़्यादा compression है, next metamorphism and melting as it reaches the deeper parts. So ये जैसे जैसे नीचे जानता है, there is this melting which starts to happen. Now, due to this melting, there is a formation of magma, and this heat starts to get and accumulate in the other oceanic or other oceanic plate. Now again ये magma release होके results in the formation of sea mounts and ये बहुत बार ये oceanic surface के ऊपर भी आ जाता है. That is what is we see Iceland. So the subduction, it undergoes deformation, intense compression, metamorphism, melting, जैसे वो deeper parts में जाए. The partial melting, it causes the generation of magma to move करते upwards and it accumulates continuously on the oceanic plate. So there's a formation of volcanic mountains या sea mounts on the sea floor. Now, जब ये volcanic mountains rise कर जाते हैं above the water level, it leads to the formation of volcanic islands. ये islands जो है वो arrange होते हैं in a shape, arc shape which is parallel to the trenches. तो ये पूरा arc shape में, एक arc shape में पूरा ये islands form होता है. जैसे जापान में there is a arc shape island. Now these islands which are arranged in the arc shape parallel to the trenches is called island arc बोलते हैं. जैसे जापान island, Aleutian Island, Caribbean Island, etc. And archipelago is a large group of islands which is scattered in the ocean. So ये जो पूरा arch बनता है, this large group of islands जो scattered है पूरा ocean में, this is called as archipelago. This is formed around ocean convergent plate boundary, जिसमें intense volcanic activities होता है. Why? Due to shifting of the plate margins. Example, Indonesia and Philippines. Next comes subduction zones. They are the sites of movement, mass, widespread and intense earthquakes. In ocean convergent plate boundary, तीन तरह के earthquakes होते हैं: shallow, intermediate and deep. Majority appears to be confined to the narrow dipping zone along the subducting slab, which is called as Benioff zone. Majority of the earthquakes, they appear to be confined to the narrow dipping zone. और उस जोन को जहां पर जो अर्थक्वेक से कन्फाइंड है, दैट जोन इज कॉल्ड एज बेनियॉफ जोन. सेकंड होता है ओशन कॉन्टिनेंट प्लेट बाउंड्री. ओशन कॉन्टिनेंट प्लेट बाउंड्री या फिर ओशन कॉन्टिनेंट कन्वर्जेंस, जब एक ओशनिक प्लेट collides with the plate of continental margin, the continent crust being more buoyant forces the oceanic crust to subduct. Now these subduction, because continental crust higher density है, oceanic crust subduct हो जाता है into the mantle. जैसे कि subduction of Nazca plate before the South America plate. Now इस subduction में the thick sequence of rocks along the now ये subduction process में a thick sequence of rocks along the continental margin is compressed and deformed to form the fold mountains. अब क्योंकि यहाँ से oceanic crust बहुत ज्यादा pressure देगा continents के ऊपर, now जो भी landforms are present, they will start compressing and lead to the formation of fold mountains, जैसे कि Andes mountains, rock mountains ऐसे ही form हुआ है. Now as the oceanic plate subducts, it creates trenches and earthquakes होता है in the Benioff zone. As the oceanic plate plunges deeper, के melt होगा and then it will start to rise. The rising magma, it will accumulate in the continental crust, which will eventually migrate to the surface, जिससे volcanoes का formation होगा. Subduction of Nazca plate below the South American, it has resulted into the formation of volcanoes, जिसको Andes volcanoes बोलते हैं. Such as Ojos del Salado, it is the highest active volcano in the world. Cotopaxi in Ecuador, Chimborazo, St. Helens in Washington, USA. Ocean continent convergence. It results into 3 types of earthquakes: shallow, intermediate, and deep. Third आता है continent convergence. Now before the collision of the continent margins, the land masses, they are usually separated by the oceanic crust. Now जैसे ही दो plates converge करते हैं, oceanic crust जो है between subducts below one of the plates. नहीं सुनता. So continent convergence कैसे होगा? Continent convergence में below the collision, एक oceanic crust जो होगा, that will collide with the continental margin. Now that oceanic crust will start to subduct. Now, at the end of the subduction, there will be two continental crust which will be left. So, as the two plates converge, the oceanic crust, it will between the subducts. Between will subduct below one of the plates. The continued convergence, it will result into complete subduction and masses get stitched together at a called as searcher zone. Searcher zone होता है जहां पर दो continental mass because of the subduction of the oceanic crust form. Oceanic material completely break down हो जाता है from the continental block and completely assimilate हो जाता है in the mantle, पूरा खत्म हो जाता है. At this point of time, volcanic activities पूरे खत्म हो चुके हैं. When continental margin they continue to collide, the low density of the continental material, it does not permit its subduction. Continued convergence forces the continental crust partially under the other, creating an unusually thick layer of intense folding. Now, because दोनों का density same है, it is very difficult that the one subducts under the another. So since subduction नहीं हो सकता, जो continued convergence है, this results in the formation of fold mountains. That is what Himalayas are. These are the fold mountains because India, it moved from the south and towards the north, and then when it collided with Europe, it led to continent convergence, and that resulted in the formation of Himalayas. Now, sediments जो deposit होता है into basin between continental margin. For example, अब ये oceanic crust खत्म हो गया. Oceanic crust जैसे ही खत्म हुआ, उसके अंदर जो sediments थे, that must be on the continent. So that undergoes continuous intense compression and results in very high fold mountains, जैसे कि Himalayas. Shallow and intermediate earthquakes are observed in this margin. The last plate tectonic movement is conservative या फिर parallel plate boundaries. कंजर्वेटिव प्लेट मार्जिन क्या होते हैं? प्लेट स्लाइड करते हैं पास्ट ईच अदर, ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन में मूव करते हैं. ये ना ही न्यू क्रस्ट का फॉर्मेशन हो रहा है, ना ही एक दूसरे को डिस्ट्रॉय कर रहे हैं, ना ही नॉट डिस्ट्रॉयज द ओल्डर वंस. It's a series of transform faults which roughly move parallel to the direction of the plate movements. जैसे कि sand Andrews fault. A series of transform fault are also found in oceanic crust. Now, जहां पे वो offset करते हैं, the oceanic ridges throughout the length. Along the parallel plate boundary, shallow earthquakes are observed, but they are of very high intensity because बहुत ज़्यादा frequent होते हैं because of their movements. So this was all about the plate movements. Now, this is a summary which has been created. You can refer later on. Now, क्या causes है क्यू प्लेट का मोशन होता है? पहला कॉज है कन्वेक्शन करेंट्स. कन्वेक्शन करेंट्स क्या होते हैं? दिस इज फोल्ड माउंटेन, दिस इज ओशनिक क्रस्ट. ना यहां से ये मैग्मा फ्लो क्या आ रहा है, यू हैव इट हियर. सो दिस इज फोर, यहाँ पे मैग्मा निकल रहा है, दिस इज मूविंग टुवर्ड्स द सरफेस. टैंजियल फोर्स में इट विल स्टार्ट टू फ्लो. आगे जाके इट, बिकॉज देयर इज अ रिफ्ट, इट विल अगेन कम एंड ये ऐसे फ्लो करेगा. This is convection currents. Asthenosphere, this is slab, ये slab जो होगा पुल हो रहा है नीचे की तरफ. This is a ridge which is being formed. ये lithosphere है. This is a trench. देखते कैसे trench का formation हो रहा है. The theory of convection currents, it was proposed by Arthur Holmes. Convection currents are generated due to huge intense heat which is released in the interior through radioactivity and primordial heat. तो अंदर का जो हीट है उसकी वजह से जो हीट जनरेट हो रहा है, दैट व्हाट कॉजेस करंट्स. नाउ इसमें दो तरह के होते हैं, एक तो पूरा मैंटल इन्वॉल्व करेगा, एक खाली एस्थेनोस्फेयर इन्वॉल्व करेगा. नाउ दीस कन्वेक्शन करंट्स राइज फ्रॉम बिलो, डाइवर्ज नियर लिथोस्फेयर एंड स्प्रेड्स लैटरली. The convection, this causes lithosphere to split, resulting in the formation of cracks. As the plates move laterally, currents carry the slab of lithosphere along them. तो ये जैसे जैसे फ्लो कर रहा है वैसे वैसे lithosphere को भी अपने साथ शिफ्ट करेगा. That is why there is a formation, there is a plate movement which happens. Now जब ये current encounter करता है similar currents from the opposite direction, ये एक दूसरे में now ये जो plate होगा ये opposite direction से आ रहा है. Now जब ये दोनों भिड़ेंगे there will be formation, this will subduct and it will lead to formation of a trench. So when these currents encounter similar currents from the opposite direction, they subside into deeper parts and drag the lithosphere down into the mantle along the region of the trenches. So this was convection currents, one of the reasons why plate movement happens. Second reason of plate movements is mantle plumes. Mantle plumes क्या होता है? मैंटल प्लूम एक टाइप ऑफ मैंटल कन्वेक्शन है जो कि एक जेट लाइक प्लूम ऑफ लो डेंसिटी मटेरियल कोर मैंटल से फ्लो करता है. ये सीधा एकदम स्ट्रेट ऐसे फ्लो करता है प्लूम्स नीचे से पूरा इधर आके एंड दिस मैंटल विल स्टार्ट टू टर्न. As the plume reaches lithosphere, it spreads laterally, doming the surface of the earth. So ये डोम फॉर्म का स्ट्रक्चर करेगा. Moving them along the direction of the mantle force. Mantle plumes provide करता है energy to the moving plate and help करता है in active plate motion. Mantle plumes they are responsible for formation of volcanic hotspot जैसे कि हवाई hotspot या फिर reunion hotspot. So mantle plume is the another reason. It's a mantle convection which involves jet-like plumes of low density. Next आता है ridge push. Ridge push क्या हो गया? The magma which is rising along the mid-oceanic ridges, it forms wedges of new lithosphere on the either side of the plates, which causes the plates to push apart. तो ये जो ridges का formation होता है, ये ridges जो है, this will, with the flow of mantle, it will force the ridges to move apart. So magma rising along the mid-oceanic ridges, it form the wedges of the new lithospheric on the either sides of the plates, which causes plates to be pushed apart. Next is gravity sliding. Gravity sliding क्या होता है? The spreading cater of the ridges which stand high on the oceanic floor, which results in the gravitational sliding of the lithospheric slab away from the oceanic ridge. So due to gravity, just sliding over of the plates, that is, so the spreading center of ridges stands high on the oceanic floor. जिसकी वजह से gravity sliding होता है of the lithospheric slabs, that is gravitational sliding. Slab pull क्या है? They are considered to be along the subduction zones. जहाँ पे subducting plates pull करता है rest of the slab को अपने साथ. So these are the 5 causes why there is plate motion, convection currents, movement of mantle results into this. Mantle plumes एक पूरा straight vertical forming, there is this magma which is coming out, and with the movement it results into the movement of the plates. Ridge push, ridge के पास में बहुत सारे formations होते हैं of lithospheric which will push the ridges apart, leading to that movement. Gravity की वजह से sliding because they are on the oceanic floor, and slab pull हो गया because of the pull near the subduction जहाँ पे होता है वहां पे पुल जो होगा इट विल पुल द रेस्ट ऑफ द स्लैब अलोंग. सो ये थे कॉजेस क्यों प्लेट मूवमेंट होता है. व्हाट आर द रीजंस? लिमिटेशंस क्या है? प्लेट टेक्टोनिक्स इन द पास्ट, दैट इज फॉर्मेशन ऑफ अर्लियर माउंटेन्स. In the past is the formation of earlier mountains and movement of different plates and how they are different from the present one, and plate tectonics in the future, that how plate boundaries changes, जैसे कि Africa and Antarctica are surrounded by ridges without any subduction zone. So ये था पूरा हमारा plate movements के बारे में.